Hello YouTube, and welcome to this video about Air Hauler. Now, I haven't actually done a dedicated YouTube video for some time. In fact, I think the last dedicated YouTube video I did was actually the unboxing of some new PC gear. That was quite a few months ago now. And ever since then I've been meaning to get sort of back into doing some dedicated videos, but all of them so far, as you've probably noticed, have just been basically highlights from my Twitch live streams. But today I thought I'd bring you something just a little bit different. This is an introduction to Air Hauler. Now, I'm going to split this into two separate videos. The first one is this one you're watching right now, is basically going to be an overview of Air Hauler, what it is, what it does, and then in the second part we'll basically take a quick flight and just do a sort of quick cargo delivery with Air Hauler, just to let you see it in action. So what is Air Hauler? Well, basically, as you can see from the screen in front of you, you can buy it from justflight.com. It's $24.99, and what it is, it works hand in hand with FSX or Flight Simulator 2004 if you've still got that installed. A lot of people still use FS 2004 actually, because of its better frame rates. It's slightly less quality than FSX, but there is a lot of people that still use it. So this is not a video about FSX anyway, so I'll skip that. But basically, it will work with both FSX and Flight Sim 2004. What it is, it works hand in hand with those flight simulations, and it's basically simulation of a freight company, an air freight company. So rather than just loading up Flight Sim and flying around aimlessly from A to B, or maybe just flying the big jets, this will actually simulate a cargo, a freight company. Yeah, you basically set up your own company. You get to start with a very, very small aircraft, such as like a Cessna 172. You obviously start with very small payloads, because a Cessna can't carry that much, and you then build up your empire. In fact, it's been likened to, if any of you guys play Euro Truck Simulator, it's very similar. It's like Euro Truck for aircraft. So what it is, basically, you start with one aircraft, one very small light aircraft. As the money rolls in, you can then upgrade that aircraft. You can lease new aircraft, or you can buy new aircraft, and you build up your own fleet. You can also hire AI pilots, much as you can in Euro Truck. You can hire AI drivers. It's very similar to that. You can hire other pilots. They can fly the jobs for you. In fact, if you wanted to, Air Hauler you can run purely as a management program. You don't have to fly the jobs yourself if you don't want to. You can actually choose to let an AI pilot fly the job for you. But where's the fun in that, yeah? So I've pretty much covered basically kind of what it says, I think, on this webpage. You can see the various screenshots scrolling there in front of you, etc. But as the blurb says here, it puts you in complete control of your own freight company. Take charge of operations both in the boardroom and in the cockpit. The limitless possibilities and flexibility of Air Hauler will let you immerse yourself totally in every operational detail of your freight company. So yeah, as you see there, it can say simply fly jobs between bases and buy or lease aircraft, or carve out a career in the air freight industry by hiring AI pilots, trading shares on the stock market with real world FTSE prices, etc., and even risking everything on loans to fill your ultimate freight hangar. So this is it in a nutshell. That's basically the very quick overview. What I'm going to do now is just to bring up the first screen of Air Hauler, if I can get it up on the screen. There we go. So when you first load Air Hauler, this is what you'll see. Now, as you can see, this is like the default profile that comes with it. I've actually set up already a new company, Steel Mill Logistics. Can't even say it. So what I'm going to do is to basically start a new company and show you guys how you would actually start it up. So click Start New Company. Welcome to Air Hauler. So we enter a company name. Let's just say, I don't know, YouTube. Why not? YouTube. Yeah, let's call it Logistics. There we go. Owner name. Well, that can be, I don't know, Bob. Why not? Now here it says tick the box if you're using Air Hauler on a network machine with wide FS. Now if you're just playing Flight Sim and this program on one PC, you don't need to worry about that. A lot of flight simmers, myself included, you'll actually run multiple machines, two or sometimes even three machines, and you'll have all of your add-on programs on a separate PC. So you'll have your flight sim on a dedicated flight sim PC, yeah. So which means all of that PC's resources can go to that flight sim, and then you'll have all your add-ons such as your weather programs, your ATC programs, or even something like this. You'll have this running on a separate PC. So if you are one of those pilots that have that set up, then tick that box. If you're not, if you're just running it on a single PC, don't bother ticking that box. So we'll click next. So this is your starting scenario. So you've got a choice of 4 different starting scenarios. You've got easy, where you've got 500,000 in the bank and a Learjet. Wow. You've got medium, which is 200,000 in the bank and a Cessna Caravan. You've got hard, which is 100,000 in the bank and a Cessna 172. That's actually the one I've gone to, I think. I think I started off with that one. And then you've got career mode, which is aircraft limited by rank. 100,000 and a Cessna 172. I'm not sure actually, I can't remember whether I chose hard or career. I really can't remember which one I chose there. In fact, let's just go for career mode. Why not? Let's start right at the top. Click next. Right, it says, are you sure you want to use career difficulty? You won't be able to lease aircraft until your reputation is over 50%. So be careful if you sell your 172 early in your career. Well, you already start with 40% anyway. So that's not too much of a problem, assuming that you are an accomplished, or shall we say experienced pilot. Let's say you know how to take off, you know how to land, you know how to navigate from place to place. If you're used to FSX, or if you're quite familiar with flight sim, then that shouldn't be a problem. Let's just choose no problem, career difficulty please. Okay, so you've then got real world data options. Real world weather display. Air hauler will show you your real world METAR and TAF reports if available, and real world fuel price tracking. Now that's an interesting one, because basically, assuming again you've got an internet connection, then it will actually pull in the real world fuel prices, which is an excellent little addition. So I'll have both of those ticked and then click next. Did I click that? I thought I'd clicked it. There we go. A little bit of a delay. Right, so it says there we go. You have 100 grand to start to set up your first base and access to a £100,000 overdraft. Please press open base to select a starting location. Now, as in Eurotruck, it covers initially all of Europe. So you've got not only the United Kingdom, you've got all of Europe, and I believe, and I haven't yet done it because I've not reached that stage, but I think you can also get the United States at some point. So, in fact, there we go, it's in the list, look, the United States. Now, because I'm from the UK, I'm actually going to choose the UK as a base, or as a starting country. But as you can see from the list, you can choose pretty much any country you want. Yeah, no matter where you're from, you should be able to find your own country there. So I'm going to choose the UK, and then click OK. And here are the list of bases. Now let's just see if we can just expand that a little bit. There we go. Right. So what have we got here? Well, we've got a choice of all of these airfields and airports in the UK. Now look at these different columns. Okay, you've got an opening cost, which is how much it costs you to set up that base initially. You've got a monthly rental, how much every month it's going to cost you to maintain that base, or to rent that base if you like. That's the ICAO code, the ICAO code for that particular airfield. You'll find where it is here, the city or the town, whatever. That's where the airport is. States aren't really applicable in the UK. Altitude, that's the altitude in feet above ground level. Runways, how many runways the airfield has. How long the runway is, or how long the longest runway is. So if you're using, obviously, as you progress and get faster aircraft and aircraft which require a longer runway, that's obviously going to be a factor. The landing fee, each time you land at an airfield, you will be charged a landing fee. So that's something to bear in mind as well. Here, this one has ILS. This is whether or not the airfield or airport has ILS, Instrument Landing System, yeah, to guide you in. This column here is whether or not it has lights, runway lights. Again, that's a very, very important factor. If any of you guys have watched my last Twitch streams, live streams, where I did actually stream using Air Hauler, and it was actually dark by the time we got into an airfield. We struggled to find the runway. In fact, I didn't. I actually landed on grass. But this is whether or not the airfield has lights, so that's something very important to bear in mind as well. And how many gates it has. Yeah, how many parking or gates, departing gates it has. So they're all of the columns, and obviously you can choose any of these airfields as your starting point, but bearing in mind all of the factors that the columns cover. Now, in my career, initially when I first started this game, my very first base, it was Wickenby. It's a very small airfield in Lincolnshire in the UK, basically because I realised I was starting with a Cessna, a very small light aircraft. I wanted a reasonably low opening cost, etc, etc, and I knew that airfield, or I knew where that airfield was pretty well. But the second time, or a new base that I bought, now I can't actually remember where it was in my last career. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to tick or highlight, click, this column has lights. There we go. And it'll basically bring together all of the airfields that have lights. Now, you want to bear in mind the opening cost and the monthly rental. Yeah. Now look at these. Some of these opening costs and the monthly rental are horrendous. Yeah, if you're going to go for somewhere like Heathrow or one of the major airports, you will soon find yourself quickly running out of money. You want to choose initially a base which is a low startup fee and a reasonably low rental. So likewise with ILS, you'll probably find that airports with ILS like Stornoway there, that's just an incredible amount of money. You bear in mind you've only got 100 grand to start with, so you can't even afford the opening cost of 135 grand with that one. So, you know, let's not run before we can walk. Let's pick something realistic. So I'm just going to scroll down here until I can find, I think, now this is something, this is one I almost went for, Walney Island, Barrow, which is on the northeast coast if I remember rightly. So it's a 10,000 startup, or 10,000 opening cost. Each month it costs you 1,100. It does have ILS and it does have lights, and it's got 3 gates. Landing fee is 75. The longest runway, not that long, but long enough at 3,317 feet. It has 2 runways, which is useful when the wind direction changes. So you're not just limited to the one runway, which could, if the wind's coming at you from a side direction, that means you could get crosswinds. So having 2 runways is always good, and then altitude of 46 feet, which is more or less, ground level basically. So that is a possibility. Could choose Walney Island. There is another one though that I was just looking for that I chose in my current career mode, and I'm just trying to think where it was. Gamston, that was the one, Retford. Now this is only a 5,000 opening cost, a monthly rental of 804.55. It's 90 feet altitude. It has 2 runways. The longest runway is 3,947 feet. The landing fee, look at that, only 37.50, so it's not too bad. It does not have ILS, but it does have runway lights, and it has 6 gates. So I think, like the last one, like my current career mode, I'm actually going to choose Gamston, Retford, Notts, I believe that's Nottinghamshire. So I'm going to open a base there. Let's just choose that, open base here. Congratulations, you've opened a base in Retford. Well, hey. Now we can also see right at the top here, I forgot to mention right at the top, you can also tick these boxes here to only show a list which will have lights or ILS, or only show bases that I can afford. So you start with 100 grand, so if you ticked this box here, only show bases I can afford, it's only going to show you literally the bases that you can afford. It's not going to show you something like this one, 115 grand for example, to open a base at Humberside. So there we go. So it's telling me now my next rent payment of £804.55 is due on 19th of August 2015. Now the dates are very important in Air Hauler. It operates basically in real time, in real world time. Yeah. So there is an option. You can turn it off, but when I very first installed Air Hauler, it actually fires up every time you boot up the machine. So every time you fire up Windows, Air Hauler will boot up and it will synchronize itself with the real world time and date. Now I've turned that off simply because I didn't want it booting up every time Windows booted up. So I've turned that off. But when you do launch Air Hauler, it will synchronize itself with the current date and time. And again, you can in the settings you can choose that it will synchronize that to flight sim time. Now, just one thing to bear in mind is that although Air Hauler works in real world time and the jobs that you get offered will expire in the real world time, you can still choose, there is a setting which I'll show you shortly, you can choose to manually set your flight sim time. So let's say, for example, you've got a job that expires in 44 hours, but it's only going to take maybe 2 hours to fly. So you've got a window of 44 hours to fly that job in. You can, if you wish, set your flight sim to daylight hours so that you're not flying in the dark. And that will then, you'll be able to complete the flight during the daylight hours, but the job will still be valid within that 44-hour period. Yeah, I'll show you that in a second anyway. So let's click OK on that one. Right, your startup options. Now this is default. All these sliders are at default. You can change these if you wish. Your job distance from short to long. The number of jobs generated, I'm going to put that right to the right hand side to more. Airport size, which is dependent on your aircraft type. And the job cargo size, percentage of capacity. So this means basically, considering you might start with a Cessna, you can, if you wish, slide that all the way to the larger, and it will mean that it will give you jobs that basically fill up your Cessna, leaving no room for fuel. Bear in mind that when you take a job, the cargo will have weight. You will also have yourself, your pilot, to consider as weight, and you will also have your fuel to consider as weight. So bear those things in mind. So I'm just actually going to slide that down to about 50% roughly. I'm going to keep the job distance at 50% as well. That's about right. So we'll click next. Welcome aboard. That's it. Welcome to your new company. You've started your new company with your Cessna 172 aircraft, and you can find it in your fleet roster. Press Let's Go to go to the jobs board and start hauling. Okay, so let's go. Now, initially now it's going to generate some jobs for me to fly. And it will pick them. It will show me all the jobs, not just from my own base at Gamston, but it will show various other jobs as well. We'll go through the different icons and options at the top, along the top here in a second. Import scenery. If you've not already done so, you should now import scenery into Air Hauler to ensure the database is up to date with your version of Flight Simulator. If you've already imported scenery for this version of Flight Sim with a previous company, you don't need to do it again. Please import scenery regularly so Air Hauler knows about new or changed airports. Now, I've actually done this because I've used this program already, and because I've got an existing profile. I have actually imported scenery. If you haven't done that, if the very first time you do it, you have to import scenery now. All it'll do is it'll take it from your scenery, really, from your scenery in your flight sim location. I'm going to cancel that because we've already done it. So these are the jobs that we've got on our jobs board. Let me see if I can drag that across a little bit. There we go. I think that's it. Okay, so I'm going to go for Gamston. If I'm going to go from my own city, well, town, I'm hoping I've actually got Gamston. Retford, actually, it's going to be under Retford. The actual airport or airfield is Gamston, but it's called Retford, the actual city. So these are the jobs we have available initially. Now, you've got a number of things to consider. This is your accepted column. It shows whether or not you've accepted a job already. You've got your airfield code, what city it is. This is where it's to. This is where you're flying to, or where the job is flying to, the destination if you like. The distance, how far the job is, what the cargo is, how much it weighs, how much you're going to get for flying that job, the expiry time. Now I'm recording this on the 19th of July. Yeah, it's the 19th of July today. This is what I was saying about real world dates. Yeah. So, for example, that job, I'm not going to fly that one, but this job, for example, expires on the 22nd of July. So I've got now from today, the 19th of July, until the 22nd to fly that job. The delivery, so that's how long it's expected. That's your window time of 71 hours. Is it fragile? Yes or no? AI pilot and the suggested aircraft. What I would suggest is, bear in mind now, then the other important factor, the other important thing to mention about air hauler is, you'll notice here, for example, a distance of 285 nautical miles. This is right across here to France. Yeah, France. Now, you don't have to fly the leg in one go. Yeah, that's the important thing to remember about air hauler. You've got a 71-hour time slot for this particular. I'm not going to pick this one, but I'm just describing this one because it's a fairly good example to use. I've got 71 hours in which to fly or complete this delivery. Now, if I wanted to, I could fly from Retford to somewhere, let's say, on the south coast here. Yeah, land there, refuel, and maybe even take a break or what have you, and then complete the second leg the day after or another time. You can split it into as many legs, as many different flights as you wish, as long as you complete the actual delivery within that 71-hour period or within the delivery slot. Then you can make as many hops as you like, which I think is a great feature because that's something that you'd have to do in the real world. 425 nautical miles in a Cessna. Sorry, not that's the weight I'm looking at. I'm trying to pick a big one here. 369 miles. Yeah. If you were full up with cargo, you wouldn't be able to take 100% fuel. You wouldn't be able to fill up completely with fuel. You'd have to make concessions. So you would have to do numerous hops. You would have to fly to one airfield, fill up, fly to another one, fill up, and then so on and so forth. So that's something to bear in mind. I haven't yet done that myself. I've not split one job into several flights, but you can do. I prefer to take smaller flights, ones that I, in theory at least, could do in one go. That's just the way I am. But, you can play the game how you want to, really. Before we just take a job, let's just look quickly around the top menu. So you have here my jobs. This is jobs that you've already flown and that you've got booked. Sorry, not necessarily ones that you've already flown because they'll be on this one, completed jobs. But this is the jobs that you've accepted. So you can go through the jobs board. You can maybe accept one job, for example, at 74 nautical miles. You can then look at any jobs available from Wharton, if there are any. Let's just see. No, I don't think there are any available from Wharton. But I was just trying to use that as an example. Or are there jobs at Wharton? No. But in theory, you could take one job, and then wherever that ends up, you could take another job from that airfield to another airfield and take them both at the same time. And they would appear on this screen here. There is one other important thing to note about Air Hauler, is that it will remember where you last landed. What you cannot do, unlike Eurotruck, if any of you guys play Eurotruck, each new job that you select, you can choose wherever you want to start. Yeah, you can maybe go from Grimsby to Paris, and then your next job you can miraculously move to, say, I don't know, Dusseldorf, and then take your next job from Dusseldorf. In Air Hauler, you cannot do that. You fly from one place to another. You then start your next job. It will remember that your next job has to start from where you last landed. You cannot move your aircraft. Yeah, that's an important thing to remember, and that's what's caught me out as well. So bear that in mind. You will have to take your next job from where you last landed. If there are no jobs available from where you last landed, you will have to do what's called a positioning flight. Yeah. So let's say, for example, I flew from I don't know, Retford to Edinburgh, for example. If I took a job from Retford to Edinburgh, and let's say that there were no jobs from Edinburgh, but there were jobs from Wick up in the top of Scotland, then I would have to fly from Edinburgh to Wick to actually then collect my cargo from Wick. So the only way you can move your aircraft is by flying, basically. So that's something to bear in mind. Jobs board we've already done. Completed jobs. This is the jobs that you've already completed and flown. You'll see them all listed here. You've got graphs and stats. Yep, okay, we know there's no data available at the moment because we haven't completed any jobs. Aggregate data. Again, this is things as you go through your career, as you do the flights, you'll have these kind of accumulate. So you'll get the total weight that you've hauled. You've got the average distance that you've flown, the total number of fees that you've accumulated, the condition of your aircraft, etc. That's something else to bear in mind, by the way. Your aircraft will get damaged if you do a heavy landing, or if you don't look after the oil or something like that. You will get aircraft damage. The ops view. This is the operations center. Again, things like your assigned jobs. You'll see, I believe here you'll see the AI pilots, etc. This is the aircraft that you have, a 172 Skyhawk at the moment. It's showing the status as aircraft. Sorry, as idle. It's not flying anywhere right now. The map view is where we are. Bob. We've got Bob at Retford at Gamston. That's where Bob is. The activity log. Again, it shows you various all the things that are going to happen during the game. Bases. This shows the bases that you have. Currently, we only have the one at Gamston at Retford, but it will show all of the others as you buy new bases. It will show them all here. So, for example, as you progress, you could buy a base somewhere in Germany. You could then hire one or more AI pilots to fly from your base in Germany. So it's an incredibly expansive game, let's say. It is a typical management simulation game. You start small and then progress and build your empire up. Fleet, that shows the aircraft that you have. One thing to mention now, in fact, it's going to be from, where is it? I think it's from options. Here we go. If we go to the options tab, you can manage your aircraft. Now, something to bear in mind is that yes, it will of course work with all the default aircraft in Flight Sim. What you can also do is if you've got third-party add-on aircraft such as the PMDGs or any of the Coronado aircraft, etc., you can import them, import custom aircraft. And I think there should be some that I've already imported here, if I look down here, maybe. Or perhaps not, because this is a brand new profile. Yeah. On my other profile, I've imported the Alabeo 172, I've imported the A2A Simulations Comanche, I believe. Several of the Coronado aircraft I've imported, and you will see those all in the list. Now, it doesn't mean that if you import your Coronado 182 or 172 or whatever aircraft you import, it does not mean that you can use that aircraft straight away. You are still stuck initially with the default Cessna 172. However, it will become available for leasing. If I go back to main menu and fleet, this one here, lease or buy new aircraft. You've also got used aircraft sales. So when you import your add-on third-party aircraft, they will appear on these screens. So you can buy them and you can lease them. Yeah, they will appear in these lists, but you can't sort of import one and then think, oh yeah, I'll just ditch my 172 and fly my new aircraft. No, you can't do that. You would have to lease it or buy it. So bear that in mind. So we've covered the fleet aircraft. This is the fleet screen. This is the aircraft that you currently have. It's a 172. It tells you where it is. It tells you the condition of it, 100% at the moment. Fuel capacity. You have to do a 100-hour check every so often. 6,000 hours till my next check. I think that's hours anyway. It tells you how this is like your gauge on flight time, how much it's flown over time. Because we've not made any flights, 0 hours so far. Your cargo capacity, 582. Takeoff weight, empty weight, cruise speed, range, endurance, fuel burn. So all of your details of your aircraft are there. We then go to pilots. Obviously only myself, only Bob at the moment. It tells me my monthly salary, next payday, how many hours I've got, etc, etc. You can rename a pilot, you can dismiss a pilot. Payroll, I think that tells you how much we're going to get due. Yeah. The following wages are now due. We don't have any wages due at the moment, so we'll just close that. That's more, I think that's when you've got AI pilots. As yet, I've not hired any AI pilots, so I've not tried that particular feature out. Finance, the all-important finance table. You've got your legend down the right-hand side here, aircraft, bases, pilots, and reputation. So reputation at the moment, if you remember, is 40%, and then we have to we can only lease aircraft. On this particular scenario that I'm on, I would have to get to 50% before I can lease new aircraft. Your base rental charges tells you when it's next due. In this case, a month from today, the 19th of August 2015. How much it is, where it is. Leasing charges, we're not leasing any aircraft at the moment, but if we were, they would appear in here. Insurance, bank loans. I think we do have, we don't have any loans at the moment. We can take out a loan if we wanted to. Cash book, that basically is like your statement, if you like. Every debit and credit will appear on this screen. Then you've got your finance graphs, your expenditure, your income, all that good stuff, that's all there. And then your fuel pricing, the prices of fuel will appear on that screen. So that's your finance page. Flight log, again, once you've actually completed flights, they will all appear here. You can print them out if you wish. Airports visited, they will all be listed here. Every airfield that you fly to, they'll all be listed here once you start building it up. We've already covered the used aircraft sales, and well, actually we haven't quite covered it. We'll kind of take an initial look, but we'll look at the columns. So for example, used aircraft. So this is like second-hand aircraft, if you like. The price, that's in the first column. The manufacturer, what type of aircraft it is. So if we wanted to go for a Cessna Grand Caravan, £1,313,220 to buy. That's a second-hand aircraft. Look at the price to buy a 737-800, 34,658,000. That's a second-hand one. Tells you what colour scheme it is. The condition obviously is very important. You don't want to be buying. Look at this, 67% condition. Would you really want to be buying an aircraft that's in 67% condition? Maybe, or 50% even. I'll leave that one up to you. Cargo capacity, can't say that. That's how much obviously cargo you can carry, and when the offer or when the sale expires. So at least we've got a couple of days really to buy these if we wanted to. Lease, buy new aircraft, very, very similar. How much these are to buy new aircraft. Obviously the prices are going to be higher to buy a new aircraft as they would be to buy a second-hand one, but that's your new price. The lease deposit, this is for leasing an aircraft, so you'd pay, for example, for this top one, a Piper Cub, you would pay an initial deposit of £11,141.13. The 13 pence is very important. That's the monthly cost. So once you've paid your initial deposit, you'd then pay a monthly lease of £4,951.61. It tells you that, again, the colour scheme, it tells you the speed in cruise, it tells you all sorts of things, speed, about flaps, gear, takeoff weight, empty weight, cargo positions, how many loading positions, if you like, how many places there are on the aircraft to put cargo. That's what that basically means. Again, the cargo capacity, how many fuel tanks the aircraft has, max fuel in United States gallons, US gallons, the range in nautical miles, fuel burn per hour, size, category, and what's that? Runway requirements. How long a runway it has to be. Yeah. What else have we got? We've got flight crew. Whoa, no flight crew are currently available to hire. Okay, companies with a high reputation have more applicants. You need a reputation of 55% to attract staff. Okay, so we'll come off that one. I haven't got any flight crew myself at the moment because I've not hired any. Stock market. Unable to retrieve price for something or other. Okay. But that stock market, again, you can play the stock market if you wanted to. You've got all the various companies here listed on the stock data. Incredible amount of data there. I've not even looked at this screen. I haven't even touched this at all, but you can if you so wish. It's there if you want to have a play around with it. And then you've got your help and your news. So that's about it in a, well, I say a nutshell. That's a pretty large nutshell, I know, but that is Air Hauler, the overview. I think on the options screen, options, now we'll quickly take a look at the settings. This is your announcements, if you like. As you're approaching an airfield, as you're approaching the landing, you've got your call out signs. So you've got your minimums call out. Auto pause, you can have that ticked if you want. Aircraft starts from where you parked previously. These are all default settings, by the way. I've not changed any of these so far. Now this is the one I was mentioning earlier. Use current PC time when launching Flight Sim. Ask a user for a time date before launching Flight Sim, or let Air Hauler choose a random time. Now when I initially started playing this game, I didn't change any of these settings. I left everything on default. So therefore, if you were to launch Air Hauler and choose a job, and you launch Flight Sim, it will use your current PC time. Yeah? So if you're playing this in the evening, after a hard day's work or a hard day at school, and it's say 8 o'clock in the evening and it's dark outside, you will be flying in the dark. Yeah? That's an important thing to remember. I would suggest, I mean again this is entirely up to you, I would suggest you have it on this middle one. Ask user for the time date. So again, as I was saying earlier, just to briefly recap, if you've got 3 days or 2 or 3 days in which to make a flight or a cargo delivery, which will only in theory take, let's say, I don't know, 4 hours to complete, then I would strongly suggest that you would choose this middle option. You then set your time to something like, I don't know, midday or in the morning, when it's light anyway, and fly the cargo delivery in the daytime. Entirely up to you. Some people prefer flying at night because of all the lighting, etc. And it's very much up to you. It's user choice. I personally like flying in the daytime. I can see more. There's more to see. It's easier to see the runways. So that's just the way I fly it, but you can fly it how you want. FSX only. Show the fleet in FSX. Add your fleet as AI aircraft in FSX. So what this will do, your entire fleet, whether or not it includes your third-party aircraft or just the default FSX aircraft, if this option is ticked, it will add them all as AI aircraft. Air Hauler options. So here you've got your cargo. Now I've left it on automatic. You can load it via FSU IPC. I would imagine that most of you, if you're into FSX, you will already have FSU IPC installed. It's in my opinion, it's a necessity in order to get the most out of the simulator. It allows you to control your hardware. It allows you to control various things about the flight sim. It's called FSU IPC. If you have not got that installed, take a look at it. Do a Google search for FSU IPC. I've got that on automatic. WideFS, which is the thing I was on about earlier, if you're using a networked setup, you can have that ticked. I've left that unticked for the moment. Download real weather for airports. Yep, you can download that. Let's tick that. I generally use Active Sky Next anyway, but you can have that ticked if you want to download the real weather information if you don't have Active Sky installed. Fuel pricing, real world fuel pricing. Yes, definitely have that ticked. That's a very useful and quite exciting feature to have real world fuel prices. Insurance payout. upload position to AH radar. Now, Airhauler has its own built-in radar, if you like. It allows people on their website or other users of Airhauler to see where other real-life pilots are at that time. If you don't want people to know where you are, if you don't want other Airhauler users to see you, untick that. I generally have that unticked because I'm a private individual. It's simply because I stream. But if I was not on Twitch or anything like that, and you know, people, there is a chance, obviously, people just seeing my username or seeing who I am, and then just kind of pestering me if I was on there. So I have that unticked. Job generation options. This is, I think, similar to the initial settings that we had right at the beginning of the program. Job distance, whether you want short or long jobs. The number of jobs I set at more, if you remember. Again, that's exactly the same options that we saw right at the beginning of this stream, of this video. Miscellaneous, what is that? Reset grid layouts. I haven't really looked at this screen, to be honest with you. Airport references. You can run an integrity check on your airport database. Map mode. Show the job and where you're flying from and to on the map line. So you can choose whether you want just the code of the airfield or whether you want the name and the city. I'll just go for code and name, I think. Paths. This is your paths to where your flight sim is installed. In my case, I'm running the Steam edition of FSX, so that's my path to there. And this is the path to where you want your flight log. So I've got it in program files, Airhauler report. I think that would be kind of default settings. When you install Airhauler, obviously you have to choose the path anyway, so they'll be completed for you. And then Twitter. If you want to put your stuff on Twitter, then you can put your Twitter information in here. So that's basically it for the options there. Manage aircraft we've already done. Import scenery we covered right at the beginning. Custom gate entries, you can put your own gates on airfields if you want to do. AH radar is, as I briefly mentioned there, allows you to look at other real life pilots. Currently, as you can see right now as I'm recording this, we've got 19 active pilots. I won't click on those to publicly show who they are, but you can, if you wish, go into a chat room. You can chat with other pilots as they are flying right now. So I'll close that. Upload stats. If you want to upload the stats to AH, you can do as well, and you've got forums, etc. So that's about it. That's Airhauler, the overview. It's been quite a long overview. I appreciate that. It's been quite a long video. Thank you very much for sticking with it if you've watched it all. What I'm going to do in part 2 is to actually choose a job and fly that job. I won't actually cover the entire flight because this is not basically a video about flying. It's a video about Airhauler. So what I'm going to do in the next video is to choose a job, fly that job and land it, and then show you the kind of screens as they update when I've completed the job. So thank you very much for watching this part 1. I hope it's given you a bit of an overview of what Airhauler is all about. You can buy it again. If I just go back to the original screen, you can purchase it if you want to from justflight.com. It's currently $24.99. They Just Flight occasionally have sales. I actually bought this when it was on sale, if I remember rightly. So if you wanted to wait for a sale, then you can do. But currently it's $24.99 and you can get it on download, obviously. They don't actually they've discontinued the box version anyway. So you can get it as a download. So that's it for now. Thank you very much for watching this part 1. And I look forward to seeing you again in part 2 when we'll pick a job and fly it and land it, hopefully. All right. See you next time. Bye-bye.